Are we started? Well, I guess we're going, aren't we? It's just a one-man show, so you just gotta rock and roll. Episode 2. How many of you thought I would just throw episode 1 up, let it sit, and then that'd be the end of me? Well, I did. Okay. So, actually I didn't. I know if I'm gonna start something, I'm gonna finish it as best I can. So, welcome back. Truth Sermon. We're gonna get it right. I know it's a tongue twister. Who thinks of a name for their channel and it's hard to pronounce? This guy. So, but what are you gonna do? Maybe we'll change it down the road. Maybe we won't. I like the name. And that's really all that matters, right? So, what are we talking about on this episode? We're gonna talk about the law always being on your side. Which, if you think about it, first off, it's pretty hilarious, and second off, it's false. That's just me speaking the truth. And we'll think about it. I'll start it with this. First off, if you ever hear something that you don't understand, you should not be afraid to ask why. That is the most important question that we can ask a lot of times is why. By the way, I'm Justin. For those of you that don't know me, I'm still not telling you my last name. Most of you know it anyway. And I don't really know. I'm just doing it as a joke. Let me just keep going. Because I don't edit. Remember that now. So there's nothing that I can tell you to look at the bottom of the screen or anything like that. We're still moving in, as you can see. We got stuff. If you see like these people that were here before us, we got some trees in the backyard that are nice. Some lights. Those are pretty cool. So those come on at night. But I don't even know what I was talking about. Law. All right. Law being on your side. And I say it's not, and there's going to be people that are going to argue with me on that, and that's fine. It's a free country. But if something you don't understand when it comes to law, and you ask that person why, and they're like, well, that's just how it is, that's not an answer, okay? That's how it's always been, or, that's what I believe, or I just never done it that way. Those are not answers. Keep asking why until you get the real answer out of them. So let me talk about law for a little bit, all right? And this right here will debunk the whole theory that the law is always on your side because it's so inconsistent. The law is supposed to be the law. And when the law wants to be the law, when a corporation wants the law to be the law, then it's the law. But let's just say, for example, and I'm sure you could go look this up and find it, that we have 20 people in the state of Texas. That's where I live. It could be any state. You pick a state. But it has to be in that state because there's state laws and things like that. So just to keep it consistent, make sure you look it up in one state. So let's just say we got 20 DWI tickets. It's each person's second offense. Okay, let's keep it consistent. They were each blew the equal amount over the limit. Okay, so let's just say they blew, I don't know what the numbers are. Isn't it 0.08 or something like that? So let's say they all blew 0.11, all right? And that's where the similarities stop, all right? Second offense, all blew a 0.11, pulled over, no accident or anything like that. They got a ticket and it went to court. Now, it's all the same exact scenario, right? So it should be the same exact verdict. How many of you think that's the case? You guys already know the answer to that, all right? Depends on who your lawyer is. Probably depends on, let's just be honest here, if you're male, female, white, black, Hispanic. I could go on and on. It is what it is, all right? So, but more than not, it's gonna depend on two things. Who your lawyer is, who the judge is. Do I think this should have anything to do with it? Probably not, but probably your background. Do you have any other things? Who are you? Are you a good person generally? Yada, yada. But a law is supposed to be a law, right? So 20 people blow 0.11 for the second time over the legal limit. The punishment should fit the crime and it should be the same. It's just not how it works. It's all interpreted and it's all done. That's all done for a reason, by the way. So just remember that the law is generally written by lawyers who work for corporations who employ us for the most part. Or, there's a lot of gray area that goes in there that you just have to be cognizant of. I said that word a little wrong, but you know what I'm talking about. And they shouldn't be that way, all right? Because then why do we have law? Now, I know we need the basic laws like, stop signs and things of that nature, and then for the big stuff. But for these little petty things, it's ridiculous. If you ever read through a contract, let me give you an example. I've been going through a process lately, all right? So we'll just leave it at that. And I have to, they wanted me to sign a form, all right, where basically they might need to get medical records to check on, certain things to see if it qualifies. So I'm reading through this form, because most people aren't going to read through this form. So I'm reading through it, and not only am I giving them the authority to order my medical records, I have no issue with that. All right. I'm also giving them the authority to go through my financial statements, to go through my bank statements, to go through my college transcripts. What's that all about? To go through basically anything and everything. It says in the form that this form could not only, it could supersede any federal privacy rights that you have. Okay, that's a little shady. And also, not only do we have the right to do whatever we want with it, whoever we send it to, whoever we communicate with, as far as, why something, whatever, through the process, they can do whatever they want with it. All right? Meaning, let me just throw this out there for you. If you take whatever this case is all the way to the federal level, because you have to, then it becomes a federal case, gets put into the federal records, and now your whole life is public information. So I'm reading this and I'm like, I'm not signing this. And the lady was like, but you have to. I'm like, no, I don't. It even says at the end that you don't have to, but it might hold up, yada, yada, the process. And I'm like, it better not hold up the process. If you want a medical record, tell me what you want. I go get it for you. I get it to you. I was in the insurance business for 27 years. So I know the quickest way to get a medical record is to get it yourself. Go butter up the front office, admin, bring them some cookies, some donuts, and they'll get those records done for you. So I can get them in a day. All right. If you just do it through the process, it could take 3-4 weeks, sometimes longer. All right. So I said, I'm not signing this. Why do you need my college transcripts? There's that why again. Why do you need them? And they're like, oh, it's just a blanket form. I'm like, okay, well then take that out. And they're like, well, it's illegal. There's that word again, legal, law, why, all that stuff going together. So I don't think I've looked at the camera one time, and I just now started looking at it. And we're 8.5 minutes in. Do you think I'm restarting? No. All right, you're just gonna have to deal with it. I told you I wouldn't be looking into the camera. It's okay. We'll get over it. We'll get through it. All right. So just keep that in mind. Going back to those DWIs, I guarantee, I wouldn't be surprised. Probably not all 20, but I bet you there'll be 15 different verdicts, outcomes of those 20 cases. That's crazy. Crazy. All right. These forms that we're signing, crazy. All right. State of Texas, you have no rights as an employee. None. All right. They can't fire you because of your color, your race, your sexual orientation, of a disability. Okay. But they can fire you for any other reason. They don't have to give a reason. That's awesome. That's really solid. Who thought that up? All right, well, we got to implement the employers. Cool, we do. But we got to protect the employees too. All right? So I can't believe, growing up, I always talked to super, extremely smart people who were so against unions. And I'm like, why are you against unions? Because if you think about it, the union was the last lobbyist for the middle class. All right. Now, do they have their downsides? Of course. They've got, corruption, yada, yada, yada. But I'd rather someone that was on my side be corrupt than someone that's not on my side. But I never understood that. Like, why should they go away? And I would hear these crazy reasonings. All right, I'm like, well, I would look that up, and I'm like, that your answer doesn't make any sense. So now that unions are pretty much, I mean, they're not totally gone, but they're pretty much wiped out. And who wiped them out? All right, people that didn't want them. Now, you were to think that the middle class were the ones that didn't want the unions, but I think some of that, they might have been brainwashed into thinking that. I'm just going to throw that out there, because here's why someone might not want unions. Probably the ones writing the paycheck, by the way, because of the unions still in force today. And this is as of last year, by the way. If you work the same job as a union member versus a non-member, all right, with the same amount of experience, 2022, you made on average 18% more. That's pretty significant, all right? If you were a female, it was 23% more. I had all these notes, but guess where I wrote the notes? In my phone. And where's my phone? It's sitting right there, filming me. So I'm just gonna have to remember it off the top of my head. African American, 20% more if you work for a union. And Hispanic, I'm in San Antonio, okay? So there's a lot of my Hispanic brethren around, 35% more if you work for a union. Okay? And it's not just the pay, benefits, all right? In 1980, give or take a year or two, the 401k was created. It was created for a reason, and it's not the reason that you think. It was created as an added benefit to executives above and beyond their pension that they received, as a way of saying thank you for being an executive, pretty much. That's what it was created for, the 401k. You know, tax sheltered vehicle that you could put money into, and when you retired, then you pay taxes when you take that money out. Well, guess what? All right, no matter, I don't care what you hear from anyone else, you can go ask them. Corporations and companies were looking at this stuff, and they're like, wait a minute here. These 401ks are a lot less expensive than these pensions that we have for our employees. Let's set the tone. Let's set the message that, hey, these pensions, you got to wait a long time to draw on them. All right, these 401ks are going to be portable. If you only work for us for 5 years, you can take it with you. All right, we're going to match you up to 5% of what you put into it. All right, this is way better for you. Okay, and I knew this was crap, garbage, since the mid-90s, when I'm like 18, 17 years old, and I'm looking at this stuff. I didn't understand it. I would ask questions, that why, and I didn't like the answer that I got. And that was usually the answer that I got, that it was portable, much better. I'm like, yeah, but what if what if we had an average middle class mom, dad, and the kids? What if the dad isn't contributing to the 401k? Well, then it's on him. Is it? Is it on him? Or is it going to be on us in the long run? When I've been into financial business since out of college, all right? I can't tell you how many homes I've been into where people are 60, 65 years old, getting ready to retire, got $32,000 in a 401k, and don't even know what their Social Security check's going to be when they retire. Then they find out it's $2,600 a month. They got $36,000 in a 401k. They were making $60,000 a year, and their first year income will be $60,000 if you use all the 401k and their Social Security, and then what? Because they still need 70% of their income, and they don't have it. That's why you see a lot of 70-year-old greeters at Walmart when you walk in there. It's not because Walmart is like putting out a marketing campaign to try to get 70-year-olds to greet you as you walk in and then check your receipt for some random reason when you leave, which I never understood that either, by the way. All right, because first off, they can't see, no offense, all right? And they're looking at the receipt, and then they're looking at my bag, and they're like, okay, you're good to go. And I'm like, well, what'd you look for? You know, just to, make conversation. And they're like, they just stare at you because they can't hear you either. That's ageism. I'm so sorry for any of you out there that's old. Well, I'm old, so I can make fun of myself. But yeah, that was really bad. I probably should cut that out, but I don't edit, all right? So anyway, I don't have any idea. We're almost at 15 minutes and I've been yapping, all right? But the key to this premise is the law is always on your side. No, all right? 401k is better than pensions? No. What is a pension, you might ask? Well, let me tell you what a pension is if you don't know, because there might be some of you that are young enough that might have heard the word but don't know what it is. A pension, first off, is a defined benefit plan paid for by your employers. Okay, so you got usually around 2 to 2.5% of your income, all right, first for working X amount of years at that company, which creates loyalty because you're not going to want to leave. And because if you work there for 30 years, you make an average of $80,000 over those 30 years, you can retire at about 70-80% of your income or more. All right, it didn't cost you anything. All right, unions would keep that benefit, all right, fixed into your whatever they had the plans that they would negotiate. They would negotiate on your part. All right. So, well, guess how many people have pension plans now? The military has a pension plan. If you work for them, if you're in the military, after 20 years, you qualify. You can retire and you can draw a 50% pension immediately too, I believe. Okay. So. Just throwing that out there. So that's what a pension is. All right. Meaning that if a person worked at a company for 30 years, all right, they were going to be able to retire at close to their income, which that's the least a corporation can do for thanking someone for giving 30 years of their life to that company. That it's a lot better shape, and they don't have to be responsible for funding their own retirement. All right. And it's not about, well, should these people be responsible or are they irresponsible? It's about what's right. You know, we always talk about, this is where I get a little frustrated with the law, because the law has nothing to do with what's right at all. You think it does, but it doesn't. The law has to do with how that law is written. So if that law is written one way and the right thing to do is to probably go against what that law says, they're still going to go with the law, which again, is crazy. That's where the union comes back in, because even if you're in Texas, if you work for a union, that employer knows that they can't, the employer is going to supersede the state laws, and they're going to have to go through that union if they're going to fire you just for some random reason. With no reason, by the way. They can just come and say, out, you're out. 27 years, I'm just going to throw that out as an arbitrary number. Good record, solid record, nothing on your record. Very productive employee. We're gonna move in another direction. Well, why? Peace out. So just keep that in mind. All right, that stuff like that happens out there, and it shouldn't happen. It doesn't need to happen. And if it does happen, and you see it happen, you should ask why. Maybe on the next episode, we're going to talk about civic duty. I told you about that, and integrity. If you see it happen and you know it shouldn't be happening and you don't ask why, you're just as at fault, almost, as a person who made that decision. Because we're letting that happen. We're supposed to be here for each other. All right. And this video is running long. It's 18 and a half minutes of either good information or nonsense. You're going to be the judge, all right, of what I just talked about. And if you got any questions about what I just talked about, I have questions about what I talked about because I don't even know what I said. But I know what the bullet points are. The law is not always on your side. It rarely is on your side. Keep that in mind. You've got to fight for yourself. Getting rid of unions is one of the biggest reasons, if not the largest reason, why the middle class has gotten busted up in this country over the last 40 years. Period. Saying a 401k is better than a pension is ridiculous, especially, over the average. And always ask why. If you do not understand, ask why. Don't feel uncomfortable to ask why. You shouldn't. If you do feel uncomfortable and you're being made to feel uncomfortable, why? Why is that? I'll see you next time. Episode 2, done. Episode 3, maybe on civic duty, coming up. I don't know. I think this is like 5 days after I filmed the first one. So maybe we'll get on a set schedule. Maybe we won't. All right? The law is not always on your side. No, the law is always on your side. But as Dwight Schrute would say, false. Peace out, fellas.